Hello everyone. I've been doing a little experiments today. I promised to show how I do Kool-Aid dyeing, and I have learned a few things today. These papers here are Kool-Aid dyed, and I had actually done a bunch of pages not too long ago. I want to say a month ago or so, maybe two. But anyway, and I had been using the Kool-Aid, and I made little bits. I have these little plastic containers with the lids, and this one's all wet. And I put a little bit of water in my Kool-Aid for a pack, so it's really, really concentrated. And I did not use all of it, and when I went back, it had settled, and there was a white bit on the bottom this time. I think I don't think that the Kool-Aid lasts for a long time. I love this one. This came from the bottom of my pan that I was drying it on. So I would suggest, if you are going to use the Kool-Aid, to use it all in one sitting. I don't think it was as strong this time as it was the first time I used it, because it separated, it did something, it didn't set well. That being said, and I love this one, this is a scrapbook piece of paper. That being said, I decided that I would do some experiments. So this is the Kool-Aid, and most of that, like I said, I had Kool-Aid left over, so that's what that is. And then, I don't know where to put this. I got out the Easter egg dye, and I wanted to compare. I wanted to compare to see what the kind of colors were. And I'm not quite sure, but I think the Easter egg dye is a little bit stronger. Another problem that I had with the Kool-Aid is there isn't any green. I can't find lime Kool-Aid anywhere. I don't know if they make it anymore. I can't find it. And none of the other flavors are green. Yellow, the only yellow I could find was lemonade. And that color in the Kool-Aid didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. I had to get I think it was mango something, to get a light orange, and that was the closest I could get to yellow. The Easter egg dye, I got a wonderful yellow. I don't know if you can see how pretty that is. I really liked the Easter egg dye yellow, and of course there is green in the Easter egg dyes as well. So the only thing that I don't like about the Easter egg dyes is you have to add the vinegar. I make the dye like I would be dyeing eggs. So I add the vinegar. It kind of helps set the color. And it smells like vinegar for a little bit. I have to tell you, I did this a couple years ago. It smelled like vinegar for about a year, and then it does eventually go away. It's not too bad. It's not real bad, but I like the color. The color is really pretty good. And then I got to thinking, if I'm going to do some comparisons, I might as well get out the food coloring. Okay? So I got out, and I just have the generic Walmart brand food coloring, and of course it comes with green, which I can't find in Kool-Aid. and it has yellow. I dropped the yellow onto a wet page, and it's so yellow that it's orange. And then I spread it around from where I dropped it to get this bright yellow page. I mean, that is yellow. I have found that the colors with the food coloring are much more vivid. They're easier to use. They're already in liquid form. You can add a little bit of water and to lighten them up a little bit, or you can add them, drop them right onto the paper, dry or wet. I think I dropped this onto dry paper, the green, and then I misted it with my sprayer. And that is a really dark color. So in the future, I believe that I will be using food coloring, just plain food coloring. The colors are more vivid. They're easier to deal with. I can mix purple, I can mix orange, I can get a turquoise. You know, I can mix the colors that I really want with the basic colors that come in the thing. So with the Easter egg dye, you have to put vinegar in, you got to mix it all up, and then you've got quite a bit of stuff that you have to use up. I don't like leaving it for very long. I mean, I have left it for a week or so. When I just this took me 3 hours to do. It took a while. So I don't always have that much of a block of time to, to do all the colors. So I'm going to show you how I go about this, and most of this is just the same process. It's just done with the different dyes. Like I said, I am going to do food coloring, I think, from here on out. So that's just what I'm going to do. I like the colors. They're bright. The yellow really sold me. This is the food coloring yellow, and this is the Easter egg dye yellow. There is so much of a difference. And so that's what I am going to be doing. It doesn't take up a whole lot of room. I can mix just a little tiny bit in like a little container, and I use brushes to brush it on. So I can mix up just a little bit, put a little bit of water in, make it pastel, or keep it really strong, use the brush it on, and I don't have a bunch of stuff that I have to figure out how to store. So I'm also probably going to be getting rid of all my bottles because I've got a ton of them. So with all of that being said, let me get these papers out of the way and let me show you how I go about, and I should have let you hear them. I did dry them in the oven so they're nice and crispy. I just don't have enough space to let everything air dry. And they do get a little brittle if you leave them in too long. You can see this one is cracking like crazy, and it is a brand new piece of paper. It's not an old piece of paper at all. So if you do bake it for too long, they will get brittle and they will start cracking like this. I got this one really wet with color, and it took a very long time for it to dry, and now it is so brittle that it's just falling apart. So that is a drawback of putting them in the oven. Most of them are pretty good. Most of them are fine. I just had some trouble with a few of them that I got too many puddles on, and I will address that as well. So most of them are pretty good. Just that one I see so far. I'll leave that on top so I can find it again. But that one obviously got baked to death. And these other ones too. The egg, the Easter egg dye, it's fine. The Kool-Aid and all that. So they bend and stuff. Let's find a piece of that paper. This is composition book paper. It's really thin, so it didn't take much for it to get over-baked. But you can do it so that they don't crumble and get so brittle like that. All right. This poor piece of paper, it's crumbling all over the place. All right. And here's another one too. This is a vote for the Kool-Aid. I did a wash of yellow, and then I took the powder of the Kool-Aid and kind of sprinkled it on the wet paper, and it made this sparkly, dotted kind of thing. So I liked that effect too. So that is a vote for the powder, the Kool-Aid powder. I might use the Kool-Aid powder that I have left and just use it as powder over the dye, because that turned out really nice. Just to let you know. All right. I use these trays, and some of them have the holes in it and some of them do not. I have quite a few of these. They are my drying trays, and I do put them in the oven sometimes. I'm trying to get enough room here so we can see everything. I do set up my Easter egg dye, Kool-Aid, or whatever, like I said, in these little bottles. I have one bottle for every color, so that if I don't use all of it, this one is an Easter egg dye, it's green. So if I don't use all of it, I just put the cap on it and set it aside. This is the Easter egg dye, yellow. And then I can use it again at a later date. It would probably take me 6 to 7 hours to use up all the dye. And I'm only making a little bit at a time. So it would take a long time. So what I do is I have all my little bottles out here with each with their own color, and I put a brush, I don't know if you can see it, a brush, a really floppy, fat, bristly brush. And I also use these flat brushes. The cheaper the better. They get dyed. I like the big wide ones so that I can put on a coat of a color onto the page. And I should probably do these after I show you how I do that. So I get my piece of paper out. I don't want to get dye everywhere. I get my piece of paper out, and I take my mop brush, my really big old brush, you can see how big it is, get it full of the color, and I just brush it on. I usually do the light colors first and I start with yellow, orange, and I usually do red, and then go to purple. I do other pages in blues and greens, but I usually start out with a page that looks like that, and it's about that wet. This one is Kool-Aid, so it's not very dark, and it won't get darker when it dries. This one is Easter egg dye. That one's the green. This one is the blue Easter egg dye, and I would do the same thing with that. I don't like to get it too wet because then it takes a long time for it to dry in the oven and then it gets brittle. So I try to brush on just enough. You do have to do the other side as well. Usually it doesn't, the color won't soak through. If you want a two-sided paper, you have to do the other side. And I dry this, and then after it's dried, I will come back with a different color, like green for blues, or purple. Do I have a purple? Nope, I have red and yellow. After it's dry, I will add another one. I will brush it on in places. I will splatter it like this and leave little drops, and that's what gives you the color variations. If you do one of the yellow ones, and then I dry it after I put on another color. So that's how you get the drops like that. Is you start with one color, dry it, and then drop on a different color or brush on a different color. A lot of the times when you drop on the dry paper, you can tilt it and make it run and make designs in it, just like you would watered down paint. Okay, and that's how I get these without them running, the colors running together, is because I dry them between each color. And it's okay if you don't dry it entirely. The last one I get so that it's not sopping wet, and I kind of let it air dry after that. So that's how I do that. And another way to do it, here's the yellow. Get one of these red. This is red Kool-Aid. Just drop it on in drops. If you put it on, this is my oven rack drying thing. If you put it right on there, it will pick up the dots or the pattern of your pan, which is pretty cool a lot of the times. And you can do more than one color. And I'm just going to let these air dry, and we can look at those at another time. So that's all I do. That's everything. And I just let it dry. I've got this one. So I'm going to put some more red on the top of the red. The color will become a little less, it will come lighter when it's dry. So this is exactly the same color as I used the first time. And you can see that the wet is much darker. I might as well use, that's green. I want blue. And I am going to let these air dry, so I'm not worried about too much. If it gets too puddly like this and you want to put it in the oven, put another piece of paper on top to soak up the pools so that you're not baking it too long and making your paper brittle. I think that is about it. I do use these wide brushes. If I was to use just one color, I would use that. Sometimes with the yellow, I just pour it on and then brush it off. For the food coloring, what I've done a lot of times, and maybe I can scooch these over just a little bit. Now they're so wet they don't want to scooch. Come on. This one's attached to that one. They're attached. They don't want to separate. And all my other little pans are someplace else. I do get the paper wet like that. I've got parchment paper underneath it. The food coloring, you can put in a container, put a little bit of water in there, and use the brush to brush it on. I also just added it like that. It's really, really dark that way. You can spritz it with a little bit of water to make it move a little bit. You can make it drip to move the color. You can use a brush to brush it. Do a lot of different things with it. So, like I said, I'll be doing the food coloring. It's just faster. I don't have to make quite as much stuff at one time. And I like the color. So that's what I'll be doing. And that's it. I think that's everything. If you have any questions, I will answer any comments on the video. I hope this was helpful. The Kool-Aid, I do have to say, smells really, really good. That's a vote for the Kool-Aid one because it smells fruity when you get it going there. So that's it. Thanks for watching.